Have you ever wondered how a modern airplane, one of the safest ways to travel, could suddenly become deadly? What went wrong that led to the Boeing 737 MAX being grounded all over the world? In the 21st century, this plane became the center of one of aviation's most shocking stories after two tragic crashes. Why did it happen? Could it have been prevented? Today on Project Meltdown, we'll break it all down, clearly, simply, and carefully. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an in-depth story like this. What is the Boeing 737 MAX? The Boeing 737 MAX was a new, modern version of Boeing's very famous 737 airplanes. Airlines around the world were excited to use it because it promised to be more fuel efficient and cheaper to operate than older planes. It was meant for short and medium flights, carrying passengers safely and efficiently. Boeing also said pilots who already flew older 737s wouldn't need expensive extra training to fly the MAX. But soon after it started flying, serious problems appeared. These problems were so worrying that aviation authorities in many countries grounded the plane to keep passengers safe. A deadly timeline, two crashes that shocked the world. The story revolves around two terrible accidents involving the Boeing 737 MAX. Both happened not long after takeoff, and both cost hundreds of innocent lives. Lion Air Flight 610, October 29, 2018. The first crash happened in Indonesia with Lion Air Flight 610. The plane took off from Jakarta on a short domestic flight, but soon after leaving the runway, it tragically fell into the sea. Sadly, all 189 passengers and crew lost their lives. Investigators later found that a new system on the 737 MAX, called MCAS, repeatedly pushed the plane's nose down. The pilots tried their best to regain control, but the system kept forcing the nose down, and they could not stop the crash. This accident was the first warning sign of serious problems with the MAX. 2. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, March 10, 2019. Just 5 months after the Lion Air tragedy, the world faced another shock. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 took off from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, but crashed only minutes after leaving the runway. Sadly, all 157 people on board lost their lives. The crash looked very similar to the Lion Air accident, with the plane's nose repeatedly forced down by the same MCAS system. This second disaster shocked the world and raised major alarm bells. Authorities and airlines everywhere realized this was not a coincidence. It was a serious problem affecting the safety of the Boeing 737 MAX. Why these crashes happened? To understand why the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines crashes happened, we need to look at a system in the 737 MAX called MCAS, which stands for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. So, what is MCAS? It is a special piece of software that Boeing added to the 737 MAX to help the plane fly safely in certain situations. The new engines on the MAX were bigger and placed differently than older 737 models. This change made the plane's nose tilt upward more easily than normal during flight. If the nose tilts too much, the plane can stall, which means it could lose lift and fall from the sky. MCAS was designed to prevent this by automatically pushing the nose down slightly when it thought the plane was at risk of stalling. In theory, it was meant to protect the aircraft and passengers, but in practice, it caused serious problems when it received wrong information from sensors. The problem with MCAS. Here's the most important part. MCAS was supposed to use two sensors on the plane to measure the angle of attack, or basically, how steeply the nose of the airplane is pointing into the air. This helps the system know if the plane is about to stall. But when the 737 MAX first started flying, Boeing designed MCAS to rely on only one sensor at a time. This created a serious risk. If that single sensor gave wrong information, MCAS could mistakenly think the plane was in danger of stalling. When that happened, It would push the nose down automatically, even if the plane was actually safe. In both the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines crashes, a faulty sensor triggered MCAS. The system kept pushing the nose down, and the pilots struggled to regain control. But they could not stop it. This repeated, automatic nose-down action directly caused both tragedies. How the crashes led to the grounding. After the Ethiopian Airlines crash in March 2019, aviation authorities around the world made one of the most serious safety decisions in recent history. They grounded the Boeing 737 MAX worldwide. This meant that the plane was not allowed to fly anywhere, not in the United States, Europe, Asia, Africa, or anywhere else. Every airline had to stop all flights using the 737 MAX until the problems could be carefully studied and fixed. Some authorities, such as those in China and Europe, acted even before the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration officially grounded the aircraft. Grounding the MAX was not a small decision. It affected hundreds of planes and many airlines that had relied on it. For passengers, airlines, and pilots, this was a huge disruption. In many countries, the planes stayed grounded for almost 2 years, until Boeing made changes and regulators confirmed it was safe to fly again. Why was such a harsh action taken? Airplane accidents are very rare, but 2 almost identical crashes in a short time made the world worry. People realized this was not just bad luck. It was a serious design problem with the Boeing 737 MAX. Investigators and engineers carefully studied the evidence and found several key issues. First, MCAS activated when it shouldn't have, pushing the plane's nose down repeatedly. Pilots tried to regain control, but they were not properly trained to handle this system when it malfunctioned. Also, Boeing had not clearly explained how MCAS worked to pilots or airlines before the crashes. Because of these problems, aviation regulators decided that the plane could not be trusted to carry passengers safely. They wanted to make sure every issue was fixed before allowing it to fly again. This decision was necessary to protect lives and prevent another tragedy like Lion Air or Ethiopian Airlines. Investigations and accountability. After the second crash, it wasn't just flights that stopped. Investigations began in many countries. Governments wanted to understand exactly what went wrong. They looked closely at the design of the aircraft, how Boeing got the plane certified to fly, and whether pilots and airlines were given all the information they needed to operate it safely. Authorities also studied what could be done to improve the plane's safety before it was allowed to fly again. In the United States, lawmakers and aviation safety boards examined how the Federal Aviation Administration all approved the 737 MAX. Some critics said Boeing had too much influence over its own safety checks. These investigations were long and careful because the goal was not just to fix a plane, it was to restore trust in one of the world's most widely used passenger aircraft and make sure something like this never happened again. Redesigning the 737 MAX. Boeing didn't just wait while the 737 MAX was grounded. Engineers worked closely with aviation regulators to fix the problems that caused the crashes. One of the main fixes was updating the MCAS system so it now uses information from both sensors instead of just one. This prevents the system from wrongly forcing the plane's nose down. Boeing also made sure MCAS cannot push the nose down repeatedly in dangerous ways. They improved pilot training and manuals, so pilots clearly understand how the system works and what to do if something goes wrong. Other improvements included better flight control software and clearer cockpit alerts, helping pilots respond faster to potential problems. After all these changes, aviation authorities carefully reviewed the 737 MAX. They tested it thoroughly to ensure it was safe before allowing passengers to fly on it again. These steps were crucial to restoring confidence in the plane. how and when the plane returned to service. After being grounded for almost 20 months, the Boeing 737 MAX was finally allowed to fly again in late 2020. Aviation regulators were satisfied that all the problems had been addressed, and the plane was now considered safe for passenger flights. The first authorities to approve the MAX to return to the skies were in the United States, the European Union, and Canada. Soon after, other countries followed, allowing airlines around the world to resume flying this aircraft. This decision was a major milestone in aviation history. It showed that, after careful testing, redesign, and oversight, regulators had confidence that the plane could operate safely again. Pilots were retrained, manuals were updated, and the new safety measures were in place to prevent another accident. The return of the 737 MAX marked a new chapter for Boeing, airlines, and passengers worldwide, restoring trust in one of the most popular commercial airplanes ever built. Still facing challenges. Even after the 737 MAX returned to flying, Boeing faced many challenges. Airlines and pilots needed retraining to understand the updated systems. The company also faced lawsuits from families of the crash victims, seeking justice for their lost loved ones. Investigations continued, showing concerns not only about MCAS, but also about how the plane was originally approved for service. Boeing's reputation suffered around the world. These issues were not just technical problems, they were also emotional and legal. Families from both crashes pursued civil cases, holding Boeing accountable and reminding the world how serious safety and trust are in aviation. Why this matters to everyone? You might ask yourself, why does a plane accident matter if you're not a pilot or engineer? The reason is simple. Air travel is one of the safest ways to get around, but that safety depends on strict rules, careful checks, and clear communication about how planes work. When any part of the system fails, whether due to design problems or missing information, the results can be tragic. The story of the 737 MAX shows why safety must always come first, and why regulators, manufacturers, pilots, and airlines must work together to protect passengers and prevent disasters. So, what can we really learn from the story of the Boeing 737 MAX? How could a plane go from being a modern marvel to being grounded worldwide? We saw how two tragic crashes, caused by the MCAS system and faulty sensors, led to 346 lives lost and massive safety changes. Boeing fixed the system, improved pilot training, and after nearly 2 years, the plane returned to the skies. If you found this story eye-opening, like this video and subscribe to Project Meltdown for more simple explanations of the world's biggest science and engineering events.